Good evening. I'm Blind, and tonight we're going to talk about your productive night routine, or at least my productive night routine. So, remember how we talked about our ideal morning routine? Well, this is what we can do the night before so that the next day things go a lot smoother. So, when it comes to the productive night routine, I'm going to talk about 3 different aspects. You have your physical side of things, where it's like all those tasks you have to do to get ready for the next morning so it goes easier. You have your mindfulness tasks, so you can unwind at the end of the day and kind of clear all your head of all those stresses. And then you have those things that you do to help yourself sleep. I'm going to give you tips and kind of what I do on each of those subjects. And let's get through it and see if you have anything that you agree with. So for the productive tips, a good idea would be to lay out your clothes, set up your breakfast, set up your coffee, anything that you can prep the night before so you have less to do the next day. So for me, being blind, I have to do this because it's really hard finding it in the morning, especially in a rush. So the night before, I lay out the clothes that I'm going to wear the next day, preferably high up so they don't get covered in cat hair. I prep my coffee, so I use a Keurig, so I prep my coffee the night before, so all I have to do is push it down or press a button, and there's coffee. Luna gets her wet food in the morning, my cat Luna, so I will get a bowl out, I'll get a fork out, and I'll get the wet food tin on the counter, so the next morning when I'm half awake and she's demanding food, all I have to do is open it up, put it in, put it down for her, and off I go. So those are like just a few of the practical tips. I also usually pack my lunch the night before. I make sure that I have a breakfast prepped so I'm not worrying about cooking in the morning. These are just some things that I do. The second aspect is the mindfulness side of things. So this is where you can start to either, mind dump onto a journal. So basically like write down all of the stuff that you've done today. You can do mindfulness, you can do gratitude, you can do all that kind of stuff. So for me, I take a little bit to practice gratitude. I look for 5 things that I've been grateful for in that day, or 5 things that have made me happy, made me smile, just things like that, so that I have that positive mindset. It also helps me throughout the day because I'm always looking for those things because I know I'm going to reflect on them at the end of the day. The second thing I do is I actually stop using my technology an hour before bed, or I try to. Sometimes it's harder than others, especially when you stay up late. But, these things aren't, you're not always going to be perfect. So I stop using my technology. Third thing I do is I will practice a guided visualization, meditation, or breathing exercise. So sometimes the breathing I do is either square breathing, or I'll breathe in for 7, hold for 4, and out for 8. And that actually just helps my brain and my body just slow down. It actually eases blood pressure. It even helps to burn blood sugar if that's something that you're concerned about. So the third section for this productive night routine is sleep. How are you going to sleep? Are you like, okay, and my day's done, okay, go to sleep, good night? You're never going to be able to sleep like that. So what you can do is make sure that your room is as dark as possible. It's actually better to make your room cool at night for better sleep, even though it's kind of hard to go to sleep when you're cold, but cool, not cold. And then having things like diffusers or going to sleep to sounds, that can really help. So for me, I leave my phone in my office, and I actually have an alarm clock in my room so that I'm not tempted to use my phone once I wake up. I will also make my room as dark or cool as possible, and just make it so that there's as little stimulus for me when I open my eyes in the middle of the night. I have a lavender diffuser that I use just because sounds in the middle of the night, my brain can't turn it off, so diffusers help me. And keeping a consistent bedtime. I mean, we're not always going to be perfect. Definitely not always going to be perfect. But keeping that consistent bedtime And wake up time actually helps our internal clocks to set that time. So it actually works well with us if we have a routine. This has really been helpful for me, especially in my new job, because now I'm working mornings, and if any of you know me personally, I am not a morning person. That's why I need my coffee in the morning. So the best thing to do in all of that is just do what works for you. Okay, so I have my routine that works for me, and I tend to get, pretty decent amount of sleep. But your life might be different. You might have kids, you might have dogs, you might have partners, all that kind of stuff that can influence your night routine. So this was just an example and just some tips. So in closing, I would actually really like to hear what you do for your night routine and any tips that you might have for other people who might be curious. And if you struggle with your sleep routine, I'd like to hear that as well. Like, let's support each other, right? So as always, please remember to like, follow, and subscribe. And thanks for watching. Now, I'm going to sleep. Good night.